Yono is an ordinary high school boy who loves romantic comedies, especially stories about childhood friends falling in love. Despite that, he believes real life will never work the same way. Surrounded by troublesome childhood friends, he tries to keep his feelings hidden and avoid romance altogether, only to be dragged into situations that feel exactly like a rom-com. The story starts in the middle of a race. Yono's focus isn't really on winning. Instead, his mind wanders to something he's always loved: romantic comedies, especially the kind where childhood friends suddenly realize they're in love. For a moment, he lets himself imagine what it would be like if his own childhood friends acted the same way, confessing their feelings like it was straight out of a rom-com. He knows those kinds of miracles don't happen in real life. When he looks down at his palm, he's reminded of the rule tied to the race. To truly win, he has to find someone he loves. A few days later, on another morning, Yono wakes up feeling unusually cold. Half asleep, he instinctively calls out Shio's name, already convinced she must have left the window open again. Before he can think any further, arms suddenly wrap around his body. That's when he realizes Shio is clinging to him in her sleep. He tries to peel her off, but she only tightens her grip, pulling him down until he ends up lying on top of her. For a split second, he thinks about how, in a romantic comedy, this would definitely turn into something way more embarrassing. But this isn't a rom-com, so instead, he pinches her lips to wake her up. Shio stirs, then freezes the moment she realizes Yono is right in front of her. She panics and immediately starts yelling, accusing him of sneaking into her room. Calmly, Yono points out that it's actually his room. Cornered, Shio changes tactics and blames him for not fixing the lock. Eventually, she gives up arguing altogether and casually announces that she'll be waiting by the front door. Then, as if it's the most normal thing in the world, she climbs out through the window, insisting shortcuts are fine. She doesn't notice the wind lifting her skirt, forcing Yono to urgently tell her she's flashing him. Later, while getting ready for school, Yono tells himself that it would be weird to start seeing Shio as a romantic interest. Still, no matter how much he tries to deny it, he can't forget what he saw earlier. When he finally steps outside, Shio immediately grabs onto his arm. He asks her to let go, but she only presses closer, claiming this kind of thing is totally normal. As they walk together, Yono feels an odd sense of disappointment. To him, Shio is just a friend, but his thoughts about her definitely aren't innocent. He silently promises himself that he'll never let her know what's really going through his head. At the same time, Shio is getting frustrated. Despite all her effort, Yono still isn't reacting the way she wants, so she presses her chest closer to his arm, hoping that will finally do something. Instead, he just complains about how hard it is to walk. Inside, Shio grumbles about how much work she puts in every single day just to get his attention. Still, she convinces herself that one day, his heart will be hers. Then an idea hits her. She pretends to trip and deliberately pulls him down with her. Just as planned, Yono lands on top of her. She immediately accuses him of touching her chest on purpose, recalling a similar scene from one of the comics he keeps in his room. She's sure this kind of situation should fluster him. However, his reaction completely misses her expectations. He simply gets up and scolds her for being careless. On the inside, though, he's struggling to stay composed. Not giving up, Shio claims she sprained her ankle and puts on her cutest act, hoping to finally shake him. Instead, Yono calmly helps her to the side of the road and pulls out a first aid kit. He explains that he's always prepared because she's always been reckless. He even brings up how, when they were kids, she used to jump between rooftops and constantly get hurt. Shio blushes, realizing just how closely he's been watching over her all these years. Once he confirms her ankle is fine, he insists they keep heading to school. She quickly catches up and suddenly grabs his hand. The unexpected contact makes both of them flustered. Panicking, Shio blurts out that she's just making sure he actually goes to school, just like she used to when they were younger. To sell the excuse, she lifts one leg slightly and claims her ankle still hurts. Seeing no point in arguing, Yono gives in, and they continue walking hand in hand. Even so, Yono feels quietly disappointed. He believes this is probably as far as things between him and Shio will ever go. As they approach the main street, he wonders what people might think if they see them like this. He pretends not to care, but he can't help feeling surprised that Shio is willing to walk beside him this way. His imagination starts running wild because the moment feels dangerously close to something out of a romantic comedy. Suddenly, they hear something drop. Turning around, they see Akari staring at them, wide-eyed, nervously pointing at their joined hands. They immediately pull apart and start explaining. Akari's shock quickly turns into a teasing grin as she begins mocking them. While picking up her bag, she struggles to hide her laughter, though Yono is too busy trying to clear up the misunderstanding to notice. Then, without warning, Akari's expression turns cold. She accuses Yono of being a creep towards Shio and declares that, as one of his childhood friends, it's her duty to teach him a lesson. When she turns to leave, Yono panics and grabs her arm, accidentally grabbing her chest instead. Akari explodes, yelling at him while putting him in a chokehold. Shio quickly steps in, desperately explaining that they were only holding hands because she was dragging him to school. Realizing the mistake, Akari freezes before turning away in embarrassment and calling them both idiots. Both Shio and Yono are left feeling awkward and disappointed. They had both thought they were finally making some kind of progress. Yono can't help imagining how horribly embarrassed he'd be if either Shio or Akari ever found out he had real feelings for Shio. Once Akari gets some distance, she drops the act. She pulls out an old childhood photo of herself with Yono and realizes that if she doesn't do something soon, Shio might actually win him over. She regrets being so harsh earlier, though she still mutters that she's only acting this way because he's annoying. Her face turns red as a new thought crosses her mind, wondering if he thinks she's flatter than Shio. She then silently swears to the sky that Yono will pay for what just happened. She tells herself over and over that she doesn't care about him at all. Meanwhile, Shio does the exact opposite, quietly cheering herself on, completely convinced that she can eventually make Yono fall for her. At the same time, Yono makes a promise of his own, deciding that no one will ever find out what's really going on in his head. At school, things immediately get chaotic. The moment Akari notices that Yono bought the same drink as her, she calls him a creep without hesitation. Akari, another one of Yono's childhood friends, can't stop bickering with him. Shio steps in to scold them, but she's quickly pulled away by her duties as class representative. The second she leaves, the insults start flying again. Yono suddenly regrets what he said, remembering how Akari used to be kind and always stick close to him when they were younger. Now, he can't help but wonder if she even still sees him as a friend. Trying to smooth things over, he awkwardly brings up his drink and casually mentions how good it tastes. Akari pretends not to care at all, but inside, she's fuming. In her mind, she curses him for being so oblivious. She remembers how hard she tried getting dressed up, studying nonstop so they could attend the same school, and even buying the same drink just to have a reason to talk to him. She tells herself that if he'd just notice her, she'd start being nicer again. Then, they open their drinks at the exact same time. Immediately, Akari accuses him of copying her. That's when Yono realizes something's wrong. He's holding Akari's drink. He tries to warn her, but it's already too late. Akari freezes as she realizes what just happened, her face burning at the thought that she's just shared an indirect kiss with him. She quickly recovers and masks her embarrassment by teasing him, saying he's acting like a little kid for getting so worked up. Noticing how red his face is, she pushes even further and even calls him a virgin. That finally makes Yono snap back. He asks if she has any experience herself. Akari pretends to be confident and claims she does, saying the only reason she froze earlier was because the idea of sharing an indirect kiss with him was gross. Yono fires back, boasting that he has kissed someone before with his eyes closed. Their argument starts drawing attention, and Akari turns away, hiding her tears. The thought that Yono might have kissed someone else hurts more than she expected. Trying to brush it off, she challenges him to prove it by kissing her. Soon enough, they find themselves by the staircase. Both of them are trembling, even though they're trying desperately to act confident. Yono notices Akari shaking, but she quickly mocks his visibly trembling knees. After a long pause, Yono finally admits the truth: he's never kissed anyone before. Akari's expression completely changes. She softens, gently cups his face, and slowly leans in, leaving Yono frozen in shock. For just a brief moment, everything feels strangely romantic. But then, Shio's voice interrupts them. They turn to see her staring blankly. Shio steps closer, and Yono panics, thinking things are about to spiral into a full-blown love triangle. Instead, Shio calmly reaches up and plucks a loose thread from his hair, casually asking if they were standing so close because Akari wanted to remove it. Then, disaster strikes. Akari trips, accidentally flashing her printed underwear. Shio instantly covers Yono's eyes. Yono laughs and calls Akari childish, earning himself a sharp punch to the stomach. Once again, the two of them start arguing, reinforcing Yono's belief that relationships with childhood friends are nothing but trouble. Meanwhile, Shio misunderstands what she saw. She believes the two of them almost kissed and realizes that Akari might be her biggest rival yet. Back in the classroom, Yono's male classmates start gushing over both Shio and Akari, openly admiring how beautiful they are. They complain that it's unfair both girls are so close to him, and even ask if he's ever seen them changing. Panicking, Yono insists that he doesn't see his childhood friends as women. Unfortunately for him, Shio has just walked in. She pretends not to be offended and suddenly hugs him. When he asks her to let go, she presses even closer, saying it's fine since they're close. Then she casually asks if she can copy his homework. Yono hands over his notes and tells her to stop clinging to him, but she ignores him completely. Instead, she sits down right on his lap and starts copying. When he protests that it's inappropriate, Shio rubs herself against him, causing him to let out an involuntary sound. The entire class hears it, and his classmates immediately start calling him a pig. Shio defends him, claiming they've always acted like this. Yono is an ordinary high school boy tells her to hurry up and finish copying, especially stories about childhood friends falling in love. She's enjoying herself now that she's confirmed he believes real life will never work the same way. She grinds against him on purpose, surrounded by troublesome childhood friends. See her as he tries to keep his feelings hidden and avoid romance altogether, and scolds them for only to be dragged into situations that demanding that Shio copy the homework somewhere else. When she tries to pull Shio away, Shio refuses. Taking it as a challenge, Akari scoots over and sits on Yono's other leg. The entire class stares in disbelief as Akari explains that she forgot her homework and that sitting there will prevent strange rumors from spreading. As Akari fidgets nervously, Shio interprets it as competition and presses herself even harder against Yono. Finally reaching his limit, Yono scolds both of them and pushes them away, accidentally touching their chests in the process. Mortified, he bolts for the bathroom. Shio becomes more determined than ever to win his heart, while Akari is left completely overwhelmed. Alone in the bathroom, Yono can only complain about how dangerous girls can be. That marks the end of today's anime recap. If you enjoyed the video and want more of it, please support the channel by leaving a like and subscribe. Let's help us reach a current goal of 10K subscribers.